Now let's actually run through this entire driver install, flash, and configure process so you can see that even though it feels like a lot of steps, it's actually not too big of a deal. So in this demo, we'll install all the drivers on our PC, we'll copy flash files over to the Edison, we'll run a single command that tells the Edison to reboot and flash with the files that we've copied, and then once the system is back up, we'll name it, give it a password, and hook it up to Wi-Fi. Let's go. So like I mentioned, the first thing that we're going to need to do is install the FTDI drivers. And as I mentioned, those drivers can be found at ftdichip.com/drivers/d2xx.htm. Here we are. And also, as I mentioned, we're looking for the 2.12.00 WHQL certified drivers. We're just going to need to scroll down a little bit and we'll find those drivers right here as a setup executable. Click there, run it. And the FTDI CDM drivers begin. We just extract those. Choose next, accept, next. And that does it for the FTDI drivers. Next, we need to find the Intel Edison software drivers. So we're going to go to our favorite search engine and search for Intel Edison software downloads. You're going to find the downloads page as one of the first links here. This first one here does it for me. Now, like I mentioned, when you get here, it's going to try to point you toward using the Windows 64-bit installer and installing the Intel XDK. I don't want to go that way, so I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here and look for the Windows standalone driver. This is the only one I need. Go ahead and run that driver. Choose next. I agree. Next. Install. No problems there. Click on Finish. Now the next thing that we need to do is download the latest image for our Edison. You can see here that the latest image for the Yocto image, that's the distribution of Linux that we're going to be running on the Edison. And actually Yocto isn't the distribution itself. Yocto is more of a distribution generator. But this is the Linux image that is made custom for the Intel Edison. And the release 2.1 is the latest version of that image. So we'll just go ahead and click on that. And for this one, this is not an installer. This in fact is a zip file. We'll just go ahead and save that. And once that's downloaded, we'll just go ahead and view this in the download folder. And we've got ourselves a zip file. Easy enough to unzip that. And the contents of this folder that I just unzipped are exactly what you need to copy to the Edison in order to flash the device. So we have to get all of this to the Edison. Let me just go ahead and scoot this window over to the left. And on the right, I'll open another window. And in this window, what we really want is we want to get the drive letter for our Edison. Now, since we installed those drivers, this should be no problem. All we really need to do is make sure that we plug that serial USB. You can hear that Windows is recognizing this. And in a second, we're going to get another drive. There it is. And this location, this is actually an old image, so we'll go ahead and delete this. This location is where we need to copy these files. So we'll select everything. This is from what we downloaded and unzipped, and we're going to copy it to, in my case, the H drive. Your drive letter may very well be different. And this is that temporary place on the Edison itself that the Linux distribution knows to go and look for its flash files when we give it the flash command. I'll just speed that up with my video editing software. And there we go, all the files copied to the device. Now, you'll remember that there was one more download that we need to do, and this is not on the Intel Edison software downloads page, but we're going to jump back out to our search engine and search for Bonjour Print Services for Windows. Here you're going to find the latest version of Bonjour Print Services. And we won't run through the process now, but as you can see, when you get there, it's pretty easy to find that download button, click and go through the next finish process to get Bonjour Print Services installed on your machine. Now remember that the Bonjour Print Services is Apple's implementation of MDNS, or zero configuration. And what this is going to be used for is to allow us to refer to our device by its name.local. That's easier than having to discover and remember its IP address. Okay, so we've got this image and we've got it copied over to our Edison. Now the next thing we need to do is download either PuTTY or its sister project P-Link, and we can do that by simply jumping to the browser and going to bit.ly/PuTTY download. And you can see here that there is a download for PuTTY itself, and there's also a download for P-Link. And as I mentioned, PuTTY is a graphical user interface. P-Link is something that you use from the command line. I think the graphical user interface will be pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to go ahead and show you the command line. That's what I know. I've already got this downloaded and installed. That process is extremely simple. So I'll go ahead and close this, jump out to my command prompt, and I'm going to type the command plink with an option for serial, saying that the serial port is COM5. Now, if you don't know your serial port, an easy way to do that in Windows 8 and above is to hit Windows X and then M for your device manager, which pops up. And then you can go down to your ports and look at the one that says USB serial port. You'd think that you'd look at one of these ones that say Intel Edison. Those are the other USB header on the board. The one that simply says USB serial port, in this case COM5, is the number that we're looking for. So I say serial COM5. I then need another option for the serial config. In this case, it's expecting us to talk at 115.200, 81NN. It's just the serial configuration that we're supposed to use. Now, something interesting about PuTTY or this board is that immediately when you connect, you don't have any console output. And so I've seen people land here and say, I'm stuck, nothing's happening. You simply hit the enter key, you actually are there, and you're ready to log into the Edison. You're going to have kind of a default name here of Edison. That's the name of the board. Your username is root. The password in this case is empty. There's no password to start with, so you just hit enter there, or it'll just blaze right by, and you should see root at Edison. That's the main prompt. You are now at the command prompt in Linux, full of possibilities. It's kind of exciting to be here. Now we're here, we're at the image basically that shipped with the board, and we want to do something about that real quick. We've already downloaded this image, copied it to, in my case, the H drive, and the Edison is ready to look at that and use it for flashing itself. And all it takes to kick that off is to type one command, and that command is reboot OTA. Now at this point, you're going to see a lot of stuff go by the screen. This is an entire procedure for flashing the device. You're going to hear Windows recognition of the device fall out and come back in. The device is actually going to reboot a couple of times. It's going to flash itself, and you should end up right back at the prompt after just a few minutes. It is nice, by the way, that we still have this console connection or serial connection to the board, because no matter what the state of the processor, of the operating system, we'll be able to see it even when it's going through its bootstrapping mechanism in the BIOS. We're going to be able to see all that stuff blaze by the screen here. So we'll get full disclosure. I'll go ahead and speed this up. And there we are, finished with the OTA, and we're ready to log in again. Now you'll notice that the name of the device is still Edison. Where it says Edison login, that means that that's the name of the device. Our username is still root, and we don't have a password after that. And here we are back at the prompt again. Now the first thing that you want to do is you want to set this up or configure it for yourself. And the way to do that is to simply type configure Edison space -- setup. And what this does is it runs through the process of picking a new password. Having a password is important because if you don't have a password, you're not going to be able to connect by way of Wi-Fi. I like to choose something simple, so I'll choose mine. You can use whatever you want. All right, here we are. Now it's asking us to give this Edison a unique device name. I'll just go ahead and call mine My Edison. Needs to be at least 5 characters. Now remember, this is going to be the name of the device. It's also going to be the MDNS name with .local that we use. So I'm going to go ahead and choose My Edison. Is that correct? Yes. Now you notice I'm getting these funny characters on my command line. You can ignore those. That's just something that P-Link is giving me in this console. Do you want to set up the Wi-Fi? I do. So we're going to go ahead and answer yes to setting up the Wi-Fi. At this point, it's looking for all the Wi-Fi hotspots around me. Mine is actually my last name there. Is that correct? Yes. And what's the password? All right, it should have the information that it needs to connect to my Wi-Fi. Now my laptop that I'm using as my host PC is connected to the same exact Wi-Fi, and that's important. I now have an Edison device and a laptop that are both connected to the same device. At this point, this device is connected, and there's a command called WPA_CLI space status that you can run that will ask the Edison to tell you what's its current wireless network connection status. And you can see that I'm currently connected to the SSID of Foster. I do have an IP address. It's 192.168.0.19, and so we're ready to connect. Right now we're still on serial, but it'll be really nice to shake this serial connection. So I'm just going to go ahead and reach down to my Edison and unplug the USB that's plugged into the outer of the 2 micro USBs on the board. Now that's gone, and I'm no longer able to use this terminal because this was relying on that serial connection. So I'm back at my prompt. Now I do remember that 192.168.0.19, and I could ping that. I typed that wrong. Let's go ahead and try again. There we go, and I do get a reply, so it is responding to me. That's great. Let's go ahead and also ping myedison.local, and that should resolve to the same IP address. In this case, it's resolving to the IP6 address. I would be able to just do a -4, and that will give me the IPv4 address. And in this case, it looks like it's timing out on that. I'm not sure exactly why, but we do know that we are able to access it, so that's fine. Now at this point we are able to connect to that device, and that's exactly where we want to be. We want to be able to ping it, we want to be able to SSH to it, we want to be able to copy files to it, and that's where we are.